Yo guys, it's your friend here, bringing you another awesome Naruto What If tale. So today we are going to see what if Naruto survived without the nine tails and won the hearts of goddess Kushina, Tsunade, Shizune, and Asami part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic Alexen. Durson link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. Naruto Uzumaki was having a horrible 25th birthday. Not only had his plan to take over the ninja world and bring peace just failed, but his Ao's best friend turned on him at the last second. After all that NNING and training DOD, I'm still nothing without the Kawi. That wasn't true. Of course, he was by far the most powerful ninja alive. He thought back to how he defeated Madara and Sasuke. He just reversed the ceiling on the statue of hell and boom, all the tailed beasts ran around killing people, and I saw all the tailed beasts, I mean all. So in the end Naruto did lose the fox, but what the hell, he was considered the strongest ninja in the world. But one thing he overlooked was that his body was no longer immune to poison. That was his one stake, well, unless you count him trusting the people closes to him as one, which he now did. His wife Hinata was not the one that really killed him. She poured the drink, but Sakura was the one that made the poison. The thing that really pissed him off was the fact that Hinata was under some sort of mind control. She had some distant look in her beautiful event eyes, like she wasn't really there. Then it struck him Sakura was a master of Jinjutsu, and she had always held a grudge against him for killing Sasuke, and now she found a way to get back at him. To the man that almost brought about peace. Sure, there were wars, but in the big picture, a few lives for Osta billion was a rather good price. You have any cough idea what you've done? He might as well ask her, just so she was sure that she knew what she was doing. She narrowed her eyes at him. Of course I do. I'm avenging my Sasuke. K, don't worry, your __ will join you soon. She was then about to key Hinata with a very powerful kick. When she found she couldn't move Shikamaru, she saw him in the reflection in the golden mirror that covered one of the walls of Naruto and his bedroom. Sorry we didn't get here in time. Naruto Choji took care of her. Shikamaru got a nod from his friend as he used plans to make his hand grow to the size of a person and grabbed hold of Sakura and took her out of the room. There was going to be a public execution later, and they would meet her for the chopping block. Suna came running into the room. Oh no. She then went over to check Naruto and Hinata as Hinata going to cough. Be okay. Naruto was going pale and his vision was fading. Lady Soon didn't have the heart to tell him that Hinata had also been poisoned and she wasn't in much better shape than him. She'll be fine, but I'm sorry Naruto, but she was interrupted by Naruto. So she's dying too. Hat sucks. He could feel her life force fading and he knew that he didn't have much time. Please don't let my dream die. Do I know about your deal with a Shinigami? I know it's a lot to ask, but he was interrupted by a massive hug from Tsunade. Of course I won't let it die, she said through tears. Thank you, Mom. And with that, the most powerful ninja died. Naruto was standing in front of Hinata in an unending black ocean. Naruto K, I'm so sorry, I didn't know what. She found herself unable to talk as Naruto had closed the gap between them and covered her mouth with his. After a little while they gently pulled a Part 1. Know him, he said with a smile on his face. Hinata just then noticed that they were standing on seemingly nothing. Where are we? She asked, looking around fearfully. That this was what the end looked like, just never-ending blackness. The fact that Naruto was here made things much more bearable. But you are here at my request. They both turned to see who the voice belonged to. You're the Shinigami. I saw a Cyclops team use you to seal Kabuto, but what are you doing here? Naruto didn't like Kakashi as much as people thought he did. I don't like Kakashi. I'm here to give you another chance. Watching your world fun for some time, and by the looks of it you would have for some time to come, but then that wench poisoned you. I have to say that was a twist, but now you're dead and life is getting interesting again. He then looked at him for some time. So are you going to agree to live again? Or what? Both Naruto and Hinata looked at each other. But what about Hinata-chan? Still look, the only way for you to live again is if I send you to another dimension, and you know why? It's cause there is a body that would fit you perfectly that needs a soul. Naruto and Hinata looked lost. Look, you know when Your first memoir was yeah I was like 3 or 4 what does that was when you finally got a soul you see energy can't be destroyed just redirected and souls are just energy get it I need your soul with or without your memories right now some 3-year-olds are just on autopilot I'm giving you a chance to start a new life yes or no it's okay Naruto K you deserve a second chance Hinata said holding his hand after a long kiss he and Hinata broke apart okay Shinigami-sama take me to my body the death god smiled and then snapped his fingers then you'll be in a different dimension so things whoa. NT get old then the blackness took him off as he was flung across the timelines of different emotions then he fell into one Naruto went into the body of a young Lars Neku's the youngest of Minato and Kash's 5 kids Minato and Kushina had Naruto when they were just 16 but some different Naruto as T. He oldest of 10 looks the same as the canon one the second old as Sora at 8 looks the same as Kina only with spiky hair the third Mio at 5 the carbon copy of Kha Mito's twin sister Asami a blonde little Kina with blue eyes Dunuko and little Lars at 3 he looked like Minato only with straight hair I'll see you again Hanaton I promise Naruto said as if they still could communicate if only for a little bit but that he had moved into L's body he would have to start from scratch and he didn't have the Kawi to heal him and he would have normal chakra for some time it was only the beginning had just woken up to find her youngest standing next to her bed she looked over to the clock 1:34 a.m. What's wrong Lars kun she asked sitting up I had a nightmare can I sleep with you guys tonight Lars hand had a nightmare but as the Naruto in his dimension he never got to know his mother or got to spend time with her and he wasn't about to let this chance slip through his fingers she smiled moved to the side and lifted up the blanket and patted the now open spot wasting no time Lars laid down right next to her it didn't take long for him to fall asleep seeing as he now has the body of a 3-year-old he found that he got tired very fast then again he did just wake up Bash just had to wake Minato up to show him how cute the scene was Bak Minato he looked over with half-lighted eyes to see Lars curled-eyed against K's midsection now this was a normal sight and after having kids for 10 years. They slept in the same bed lots of times but it was the fact that Lars had found his way into K's very long red hair that was so adorable Lonato let out a small chuckle morning Lars had woken to find that he was now seated on the lap of his father and was at the dining table morning Lars look Ed to find that Jera was the one talking to him was Lars' response if he got one thing from his old life it was the fact that he was not a morning person okay so Minato they started some conversation about seals that Lars didn't care about he didn't even want to be awake he jumped off his father's lap and went to look for the bedroom he had woken up in last night Lonato and Jiraiya were so caught up in what they were talking about that they didn't even notice that Lars had left as Lars went down the hallway he couldn't help but wonder about his other family after all he was an orphan for his whole life he turned to the closest door and opened it it turned out to be Sora's room she was sitting up in her bed when she saw her little brother standing in her doorway Lars come here she then waved her hand in a come here motion and Lars followed just like before with Kha he climbed into bed and Faye LT to sleep right up next to her 5 minutes later wake up Lars and Sora jumped out of bed at the loud and sudden noise Naruto what do you wanted this hour Sora asked as she got up from the mess of blankets mom said to wake everyone up and that's what I'm doing he said crossing his arms later that day. Lars and Kha were walking to the market when something caught his attention a red sleeve and long black hair Andai he thought as he was looking at the woman with her back turned to him Lars K he turned at hearing his name he didn't expect to see Anko of all people to know him he just didn't expect court for it to be her she still looked the same only shorter Anko he asked just to make sure see Cash sensei I told you he'd remember me and he was just to then haha take that Kurai Anko did a little victory dance Bash put Lars down so he could go up to see Anko even though he had no real interest in seeing her he needed to find Kurai to find Hinata speaking of Kurai she just happened to walk up right next to Anko it sounded like he was questioning who you were she said without a single emotion in her voice Ganite Anon Lars ran over to her and hugged her legs she had saved his life a few times do Ring the fourth war, and she was the closest thing he had to his sister back then. Ino cried in the anime. Hello Lars K, she said with a smile. If there was one thing that was good about being little and adorable, it was that no matter what people thought, you were the cutest thing alive. Like right now, if Lars had been a teen and just ran up and hugged her, she would have kicked him right in the junk, but he's just a little tao right now, so he can do pretty much whatever he wants. Mom concur. Andai-chan come shopping with us, and so his plan started to unfold. He would get to meet Hinata if he just stayed around K and I long enough. Sorry Lars K, but I have to go and train my team. She patted him on the head. Deem, but Hinata would only be 10, so why does she have a team already? Lar just had to find out, and I watch you guys train. He was going to meet Hinata no matter what. Kushina sensei, would you mind? Lars watches our training. Not at all. If Lars is with you, then I know he's safe. Could you just watch him until 2? After they agreed, Lars went off with Kurai to the training fields. Training field 8. After meeting the team, Lars found out something that he didn't take into account. Hinata loves Naruto, and he wasn't Naruto here. The saddest part was that Naruto loved Somaya girls. Lars had even tried talking to her, but she didn't even seem like she even liked being around him. Well, she'll probably just get married to some other. Lars had to rethink his life. At least there was some good news this day. Why, he found out that the third ninja war didn't even end, so graduation was a 10, and that Minato had yet to make the ring, and Minato had instead chosen to confess his feelings for Kina and pursue a relationship, but he was still the Yame with the flying thunder god technique. At least I can make the Ranga N at home. As soon as Kerr and I dropped Lars off, he was met by his oldest sister at the doorway. Lars had been looking sad all the way through training. When asked, he just said his stomach hurt, but that was not the reason for his sudden change of heart. There was no chance of him being with Hinata, but that was a good thing. He didn't want to just redo his whole life. You're sad, Lars, and don't pull that my tummy stuff. I know you too well. Sora crossed her arms. For being 8, she was rather mature. Why is Naruto not sent? So stupid. He goes and chases after Somaya girl when Hinata is right there at Ju. T seems stupid. At least that's what Lars wanted to say, but if a 3-year-old went and asked out why not love so and so, people might get suspicious, so he would need to make her drop it, and he knew just what to do. Why does daddy touch mommy in her no place? Poor Sora didn't know what she was in for. She seemed to get rather uncomfortable by this. Lars, have you been spying on people? She yelled as she finally regained her train of thought. No, they were in the kitchen, but why would I have to spy on people to see them do that? He was going to make her regret ever asking him anything today. Sora spent the next 2 hours trying to explain love to Lars and get him to stop asking her such unbecoming questions. Finally, Minato and Ken, along with the rest of the family, got home. Then Lars went and asked her something that would make her leave him alone for certain. So if I touch your no place, that's love? Lars asked, looking genuinely confused. Lotto, Kinajera and Tsunade laughed their asses off. Naruto chuckled. Mio and Asami looked confused. Then Sora blushed and began hitting him on the head with a rolled up newspaper. Mom, Lars keeps asking me nasty questions, she said as she kept smacking Lars on the head. As he tried to run away. 4 years past, Lars had been walking back home from the academy. He was also by far much more talented than the others in his class, and by next year he would be taking the Gen and exams. Things were finally looking up for the hero of this story. Then a dark alley across from Lars. Is it him? One undercover Iowa asked his John and leader. You have no idea how hard it was to get into Koha. The place was a fortress, and the fact that they got this close to the Hokage's son was only a testament to their stealth skills. Yeah, that's him, he said, looking at a picture of Yan Dam, Ehawk's youngest son. They already called him a prodigy in the ninja arts. Now that was a problem for Iowa, so they were going to get rid of said problem. Back with Lars. Someone's following me. 2 ninjas, one of John and Chakra and one of Chun and Chakra. Good thing I'm a chakra sensor here, or I would have missed him. Lars smiled as he turned the corner that led to a training ground. He had been trying to remake the Renan, and all he needed was a human test dummy. Let's see just how much I've grown. As he entered the training ground, he dropped his book bag and went to the middle of the stony field. The Ambu Will notice I haven't taken the normal way home that leaves me about 3 minutes before they get here, just enough time to test out my new jutsus. Lars cracked his knuckles. He turned to the two chakras that were hiding in the woods. They showed no sign of coming out, so you re just going to sit in that tree? Huh, well, too bad for you. I'm a chakra sensor. Lars then went through 3 hand seals, dragon, tiger, hair, water, release, violent water wave. He took a deep breath, then exhaled. A massive amount of water shot out of his mouth and smashed right into the tree they were hiding in, effectively knocking the out of it. Water now covered the field, so I went ninjas had. Then again, who else would be stupid enough to attack me? He crossed his arms. Kid, do you really think you stand a chance against a Jonin and Onin? The tallest member of the 2-man unit said as he stood up. Lars smiled and jumped onto a large rock that was near the middle of the field. He then brought his hand into the snake hand seal. Lightning released false darkness. A bolt of lightning shot out of L's mouth and struck the water. The Jonin was able to jump out of the water and time. Tsunan, on the other hand, was fried to a crisp. L fell to a knee, gasping for air. Wow, that took way too much out of me. If I'm going to use the Renan, I can't miss. As Lars stood up in the now covered in steam training ground, the steam was not enough to hide in, but it did make everything a little hazy. C rank water and B rank lighting, then Judo form. A 7-year-old kid. I have to say I'm impressed, but you're almost out of chakra. To think that one day you would be a major threat to Iowa. It's a good thing you're going to die here. The Jonin then shunshined right in front of Lars and brought his kunai down, cutting through L's left frontal sinus cavity. Ouch, but it was a bad choice on Jonah's part, as he was not in range. Bengen Lars had the Renan in hand and pushed to try it into the Ia ninja's stomach, sending him flying into the wall of the cliff that overlooked the training ground, knocking him but not killing him. Just then a squad of 10 Ambu jumped down into the field. They looked at the side in front of them with disbelief. Namke, is S, are you all right? One of the U was by Lara's side in a matter of seconds. On seeing the deep gas, she aided a healing and started to heal his forehead. Just then Minato and Jera Sunshine entered the field. Minato ran over to his son. Lars then collapsed from chakra exhaustion, pain in the head. Hospital. Lars woke up to find he had a bandage over his left eye and right hand. So the Renan is too much for me right now. He then noticed that there was one laying on his bed or someone's. He sat up, then looked down and saw Redid and a blonde Bammy and Mio. What are they doing here? He was never really close to them, but then again he didn't really talk to anyone. Lars, you're awake. He looked up to see his now 14-year-old brother Naruto and Mishuri Aa walk into the room. He was holding a white box. I got you some Maku, he said with a stupid smile on his face. Thanks, Lars said while giving Mishuri the evil eye. He had gotten over the fact that he would never be with Hinata, but why did his brother have to go after in a Sasuke's cousin and probably the Isist to Cha, which meant she was up to no good. Mio and Asami worked up at the loud volume that Naruto was talking to. They looked surprised. Lars, they said at the same time as they tackled him back onto the hospital bed. Now my body. Just as everyone in the room finally got seated and Ambu appeared. Lars, the council would like to see you. Then Ambu disappeared and left the 5 people alone. Lars, did you hear him say when they would like to see you? Naruto said, raising his eyebrows a few times. By no, dearest brother, I didn't, Lars said as he laid back down with Mio and Asami on either side of him. The Ambo popped back and they meant right now. He then jumped out of the window. Lars got out of bed and with his sister's brother and brother's girlfriend they left for the council meeting chamber. Later, a council meeting. Lars sat down in a chair in the meeting room by himself. Asmo, Asami, Naruto and Ishori had to wait outside the room. I'm Dad. Why did you need to see me? When he was in trouble he always called him Dad. Never. Hakama, try to keep the I'm your blood thing going. It almost never worked. LK, the council, and I would like to know just how you managed to kill a Chunin and incapacitate a Joe. Nen, I hope you understand that you're not in trouble. I would just like to know what was this Renan you used and how did you learn a C rank water technique and a B rank lightning one? Lars shuffled his feet and looked away. Can I pass to the next question? Lars, Kakuzu Namek, as you will tell your fath. How you learned 2 high rank techniques and just what you used on the Ia-jan. Kha yelled as she was sitting next to Minato. Wow, she's scary. Wait, did she just say my middle name is Kakuzu? How did he miss that? Don't change the subject. Do well, the lightning one I learned from your scroll, Dad, and He water scroll was yours mom, it was just sitting on the table so I thought they were there for anyone. The other the ringan is one that I made, he said that making an heir and was an everyday thing. I saw Minato looked at some of the clan heads and got a nod from them. Lars C, thank you for answering the questions, and next week you will be taking the Gen and exam with your sisters. You are dismissed, Minato said with a smile. Lars was surprised by this. He had thought that they would demand for him to explain the workings of the Ren, not let him take the exam for doing it. Thank you, Hokage. Sars bowed and left outside the meeting room. Lars, how it goes? Sar asked as she had joined the rest of her family waiting for him. They want me to take the genin and exams next week. Mio and Asami jumped for joy at hearing that their favorite brother was taking the exams with them. Do Naruto's a distant second, and the next few hours were spent with Lars being taken all over the village to celebrate. Back at home, the his family were sitting at the dinner table enjoying some of Kushima's cooking. Lars just couldn't take it anymore. Is anyone going to ask me about the Rengen or not? He worked hard to remake it and was a little disappointed that no one seemed impressed. Lotta laughed at that. Lars K, I made the Flying Thunder God technique when I was 15 and to this day I haven't told anyone how it works, not even Kina or Jera knows. The point is that you made a powerful technique and it's yours to do with as you please. Minato then stuffed some rice into his mouth. Lars pouted then turned to eat as well. Mio was feeding him as he was a righty and could use chopsticks with his left hand. That ended the conversation for that night through 45 a.m. Lars woke up to the pain of laying on the wrong side again. Stupid head and arm wounds. He then heard the door open. Lars, are you awake? The voice of Sora. Yeah, Lars said, sitting up. She ran over to the bed and hugged Lars. Don't I? Okay. He felt his shoulders start to get wet. She's crying. Lars didn't know what to make of the situation, so he just hugged her back like someone could kill me. Lars had been trying to think of a way to mix up his life a little. He didn't want to do the same thing over, so bringing peace was out of the question. The gen and exam is tomorrow. I could always become HOK if I did that already. How about I make some ultimate that was in my world but not here now? To just pick one. The thought of all the fights he was ever in, well, only the ones without it. Of all the ones he was in, there was only one that caught his eye: his fight with Kakuzu. For reasons unknown to him, his middle me here was Kakuzu. The man was almost immortal and could use all 5 chakra. I really need to find out why that's my middle name. Then it clicked, that's what the Shinigami wants me to do. He jumped out of his bed, then went over to his desk and pulled out a piece of paper. I may not know how he did it, but I know enough about it to recreate it or make it better. He started writing down ideas. Yes, he wrote a little. Yes, he sped up his writing. That makes perfect sense. He had pulled out more sheets of paper and was filling them with ideas of how the technique worked. Outside Elle's room, Bash was walking by Elle's room and heard her son mumbling to himself just when she was about to go and see what was bothering him. Lars shot out of his bed and ran over to his desk, and she heard him say yes, he wrote a little. Yes, he sped up his writing. That makes perfect sense. He had pulled out more sheets of paper and was writing on them as well. Thea was a little shocked. She never saw any of his kids act this way. She heard Lars stop writing and speak some more and just connect them here and here. That could work. Lars jumped up. It could work now. Kha just had to ask what would work. Sweetie, she had opened the door and was leaning on the doorway. Lark eyes went wide. And nothing mom, just some stuff and whatnot, Lars said, covering the papers on his desk. She saw that he was writing up ideas on how to control threads to rip people's hearts and other organs out and put them in his own body just to live longer. There was no telling what she would do. Fish looked at him worriedly. Is there something you need to talk about, Lars K? She walked over to him, kneeling down to bring herself to his closer level. No, he was looking down. He didn't want his mother to think he was some sort of monster, and if she saw this, then she most likely would once again. Kha looked worried. It's okay, Lars K, you can tell me what's wrong. She then bent down even further and hugged him. He just couldn't take it. He told her about the technique he was thinking of, and surprisingly she was amazed by what he had come up with. My little genius hugged him even harder. Thanks mom, he said, returning the hug. She then pulled away and stopped with one hand on each of Lars' shoulders. She smiled at him, not a normal motherly smile, but a way to loving for a mother to have smile, causing little liars to blush. But you might not want to tell your father. I don't think he will D liked the idea very much, said with what he was pretty sure was a growl at the end, the lustful growl inside K's seal. He will be very strong when he gets older. I wonder what he'll be like in B in a few years. The feminine voice of the Kawi rang out in her mind. Not even Minato knows this, but Kha and Th. Kawi had come to an understanding, and after that they became friends. Kawi still liked to mess with Kushina. After all, old habits die hard, so the great demon fox sent some rather sexual images into her mind. Outside of the seal, her eyes changed red for the slightest of seconds, so fast that Lars didn't even catch it. She then bent down and kissed her son's small mouth. Her tongue lightly ran across his lips as she did. Lars was surprised by this. His body may be 7, but his mind was a lot older, so he couldn't help himself from returning the kiss. Of course, this surprised Kha. She didn't expect him to do anything but stand there, but then again he always found a way to surprise her. She then pulled away and looked at him with another one of those smiles that made him blush. I'm going to go make dinner. After recovering from shock, Lars then spent the hour making a sealing scroll that only he could pen. He then put all his ideas in order and sealed them. At L's dinner, he heard his sister calling him at the dinner table. Naruto had been wondering what his little brother was yelling about earlier, so he decided to ask, hey little bro, I heard you saying something about something working a bit ago, so hat's working? Lars mentally slapped himself. Of course he heard him. Naruto's room was right next to his. Not only that, but apparently they were having company over. The 3 Sannin, the Inuzuka, Akamiki, Nara, Yamanaka, AA, and Abam clan heads and their wives were here. Minato was curious, what technique am I? Was just thinking of a way to improve the Renin, and I think I know how. Lars didn't want anyone else, not including Kina, to know about the new Earth grudge fear, so the only thing he could think of was the wind release race in Shuriken. This got Naruto's attention. He had seen his little brother use the technique once before and was amazed at what he had come up with. Apparently other people at the table had the same train of thought. Tum was the first person to ask, the technique is only a day old and you're already thinking of a way to improve it? Yeah, I was thinking of adding a chakra element to it. Lars had a sheepish smile. Baracho looked surprised. The technique was quite a feat for someone to make in the first place, and now you're going to improve it even more. That little liar's C is very impressive. Leonardo just looked proud of his son's ability at wonderful. LSK, you're just like your SIBL. Ing's powerful and kinda good combination. Makoto added. Baram Maru seemed more interested in the technique than L's personality. And how are you going to improve such a thing? I was thinking of adding wind chakra and making it a projectile. Everyone in the room thought of the effect of such a that would be the most interesting thing to see. Fugaku added with a thoughtful look. After the thought of the wind projectile Renan, the rest of the dinner went on without much talk. 12 a.m. Leonardo had been having trouble sleeping, so he took a sleeping pill to help. It dropped him like a sack of potatoes. K smiled at this and left the bedroom and headed for Lars's room. 3 a.m. Lars woke up to find a weight on him, so he looked, but instead of finding Mio and Amy, he found Kha. Not only that, but he moved a little to see who it was and found that he wasn't wearing any clothes. First a kiss and now my cloth. Then realization dawned on him. I'm okay with this, as he thought, as he decided to go with the flow and snuggled into Kushima. Body still fine with this, as he then looked at her sleeping face with the sun showing through the window. A beam of light was right behind her head, making it seem as though her air was glowing. Wow, she's beautiful. He never really noticed, but now that he took the time to really look, he found that he had never seen someone so amazingly beautiful. He just looked at her for the next 3 hours until she woke up. She smiled at him. Mningls kun. His response was to smile back at he. After that, she decided it was time to get ready for the day. Her getting out of bed caused 3 things to happen. 1. Ls fainted from blood loss. 2. Kha blushed at her son's reaction. Iui laughed. Well, that's one way to react, and he's 7. He is going to be fun in a few years at the academy. Lars had been sitting in the middle of the classroom with one of his sisters on either side, waiting for the test to start. Are you nervous? Neo asked. Lars smiled. Not in the least. All right, class, today we will be having the Gen and exam. We are going to see if you are able to become a ninja. The first part of the Test is written they will be passed out and you have 30 minutes to finish it. 30 minutes passed and the Namek's children finished with 20 minutes to spare. All right, the next test is the transformation. I will call you one at a time to come up to the front of the class and transform into whatever I say. The first name AA Sun. Everyone passed, and now the last part. You will perform a C rank or H ninjutsu. If you don't know any, then you will be given a different test later today. We will be going outside for this. Outside, let's start. Some more time passed and Amy here goes nothing. She went through some ND seals, snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger, high release, flame, bullet. The target caught on fire, then burned away to ashes. Formed the torrent of fire that came out of Amy's mouth. The June in tester wrote something down. Namke as Amy pass seer ank fire jutsu, but you pass here as your headband. And Lars got up and went to the testing field. Tiger, dragon, bird, lightning, la roaring lion. Lars held his hand palm out to the target. Blue lightning crackled off his arm, then shot in a perfect beam that cut right through not only the target but the trees behind it too. 10 deep, and it was accompanied by the sound of a lion roaring. You pass, here's your headband. The June in tester wrote something down again. Namke as Lars passed bank lightning and Mio. She walked out to the field and took a stance. She clapped her hands together, then pointed them palm out at the target. Wind release, violent wind, palm the targ. Ed was sent flying. The Jonah nodded. You pass, here's your headband. He put her info down on the clipboard. Namke as Mio pass Sean K win jutsu after the end of the test. Now for team assignments. Team 1 Psi if I could just skip this to my T. Namke as Lars, Mio and Amy. Well, that was convenient. Bajan and sense I will chose Akamaiki and Akamaiki. Oh right, there's a war, so Kakashi team will be fighting in it. The large man with red hair walked in. Team 1 Lars and his sisters nod. All right, let's go. He turned and left the room. The three of them got up and followed the large man to training ground 99. Training Ground 99, aka nothing interesting about this training ground. The training ground was a rather boring sight. It had trees to the left and back, a wall of rocks to the right, and a lake in the back. Toza sat down in front of the lake. The three siblings followed. All right everyone, my name is Chosa and Toda. Why, I will be testing your strength, but that is hand grp to the size of a small house. The three's eyes widened, then two of them jumped out of the way. His hand hit where Lars would have been sitting, and with Mio still sitting, she was thrown into the air toward the forest by he's strong. Mio commented with a bored tone as she went sailing through the air. Right before she hit the ground, she disappeared from sight in a yellow flash. She knows her. Toza was distracted long enough for Lars to run upright in front of him and deliver a chakra-enhanced elbow to the chin, sending him flying into the lake. Good th. Tunit taught me her super strength. Lars smiled at how powerful the blow was. The water grew still. His smile got bigger. Water release, water wolf head technique. A massive wolf head made out of water came out of the lake. L's smile went away at hearing the name. The head was made out of all the water in the lake, and there was nowhere to run. This is going to hurt. Wait, a Sami jumped in front of Lars. Tiger, snake, rat, snake, tiger, water release, water wall. She may not have water around her, but she's sure as hell could take it out of the air. I'll need to thank mom for passing the high affinity for what? To me. The great wolf head smashed into the wall. After the water settled, three people stood across from each other. Then one person jumped down beside Lars and Amy, taking water out of the air. How you do take after your mother. Chose a smile at a skill the kid possessed. He continued, and Mio being able to use an S-rank time and space technique, and you Lars, that kind of strength at your age, you kids are really something. Toza got a thoughtful look. From what I've read, they have good teamwork. That's good enough for me. All right team, meet me tomorrow and we will start taking missions. You're all dismiss. Ed, but that team 1 started their journey to greatness. The DDE Lars, age 10. 3 years have passed since Team Nekus was made official. Things had once again started to look up for Lars as he finally had an assignment. They had to deliver an important scroll to the Fire Dio that contained reports of Boo T. Kumo. It seemed that they would be going to war with not just Suna and Iowa but Kumo as well. But enough with the bad news for Lars. It found out that not only that his mother liked him or his sisters as well, and they had very interesting ways of admitting it. First was Kina just a few days after Beck Oming a Janine K's confession. Lars, age 7. Lars and Kha had just gotten into the door of their home after a day shopping for new ninja equipment. After they had put everything away in storage scrolls, she said something that made Lars blush. It's hot out and you're all sweaty. Come on, let's go take a shower together, she said with a smile. I'm okay, he thought of protesting, then remembered that just a few days ago she kissed him and was sleeping next to him. Master her bathroom. Kha had just taken all her clothing off and stepped into the shower. She looked over to her youngest with a questioning GL. Answer, you coming in or just going to watch me? Lars started blushing and fumbled over his words, trying to defend himself, not stuttering, mind you, but he couldn't think of anything to say in his defense. The first time he saw Kha, he hadn't seen a naked woman in 7 years, and she was by far the most attractive one he had ever seen, but now he was so sort of used to it. She laughed out of his response, then come here, silly. Lars dropped his towel, and seeing as it was one of the only for showering baths he could just step into it, he reached for some soap, then he tensed as he felt a hand on his back. Don't worry, mommy's just going to wash you back. He could practically hear the smile on her face as she talked. She sat down right behind him and pulled him onto her lap. He didn't say anything to stop her, so she went on. As she went on, he couldn't help but blush as his blood went to other places. It didn't help that he felt her whole body touching his. Kha seemed to notice his frustration, and the blush on his face just made him so much more adorable. I love you, Larson, she whispered into his ear. I love you too, he said with a tone that made Kha stop. He didn't mean it like love you, mom. There was some emoji on behind that. To think a 7-year-old gets the concept of love. Then again, he did come up with some really powerful techniques, and I know how much you're attracted to power, but that's not why you're doing it now, is it? Well, yeah, of course I love him. I'd love him even if he didn't have chakra at all. You found that out just now. She and Kaui may be friends, but that didn't mean she was going to treat her like a queen. Lars actually started to worry. Did I say the wrong thing? By the time Kina and Lars had gotten out of the shower, Lars now had a great number of hickeys on the back and sides of his neck and even on his shoulders. Not only that, but unfortunately for Kha, she herself was pent up. Then an idea came to her. Hey sweetie, you want to help out your mommy with something very important? Lars looked at her with the most innocent face he possibly could. Sure mommy. She then picked him up with their towels still around them. His golden hair had a stem coming off of it. As he went into the next room, she set him on the bed and he looked up at her with the most innocent smile he could muster. I can't do this to him, he's so innocent. Sigh, plus I don't want to ruin anything that could happen. Choice. So mom, what did you need help with? Oh sorry my little babe, but I just remembered I need to meet your father for lunch, but you can help me later in a few years. That is the end of that day left both Kina and Lars feeling rather pent up, and as for Lars hiding the little love bits, well no one really asked, they just assumed it was something else. Lars and Kha would do this almost weekly. Every time Kha gets closer and closer to undoing the towel when she would set Lars on her bed, the same thoughts always went through her head. He's too young and he'll hate you for it, or don't ruin what you could have. In the end, Lars would just end up with little love marks all over his neck, and he even got to put some on Kha, but in the end she decided it was best to wait for him to get older. After all, it's not like Minato was interested. He's 34 and we haven't had sex in almost 6 years. Kha thought a Ngrilly and K's confession. Not that Lars or Cashin minded that they didn't go all the way, they just enjoyed spending time with each other. Thinking of his mother made him think of the second member of his family to come out and say it's Sora, his older sister by 5 years. She was easygoing but a fierce fry and fighter, not to mention, and she had what every Uzumaki had, a prankster side. He had once heard that she spray painted the Hyuga's secret training ground of bright pink with the words "not so great." Now this train of thought brought him to when he first heard her tell him she truly loved him. Sora's confession. Lars, aged 9. Lars woke up at 5 a.m. to hear a rather strange noise coming from Sora's room. More specifically, he heard her saying his name, and with everyone else out on a mission or at the office, they were the only ones home, and out of concern for his sister he went to check things out. Ars silently walked down the hallway to Sora's bedroom door. At first he thought of knocking, instead he chose to listen to hear if anything was wrong, so he pressed his ear to the door inside Sora's room. Sora had woken up about an hour ago from a dream of Lars and her doing unmentionable things. Bammy Aki's my brother and I'm thinking of him like this, she thought for the nth time over the years. First he was so cute as a baby and now he's a hot preen. Then again I'm only 14, not that much older than him. Maybe I should just drop a hint or two to let know. She started to think about her and Lars. He was so caught up in her train of thought that she didn't even notice that her hand had started to move on its own. She twitched as her hand made contact with her wet entrance. Lars he wisped under her breath. His eyes widened as he finally heard what she was saying. Wow, she's thinking of me while she does this. He made his move. Even if she would throw him out for doing this, he had to try. He put his hand on the doorknob and turned it. Lars, if you ever tell anyone about this, I'll cut your balls off. But whatever Lars was expecting, it was not that. He nodded a few times, then turned to leave, but was straight opt by Sora's other hand on his shoulder. But now that you've seen me naked, you'll have to buy me dinner. She had a very serious expression once again. All Ls could do was nod. After dinner at the ramen bar. After dinner, Lars had found that his sister could eat just like him. By that he meant about 500 Rios worth of ramen. A D rank mission costs the same. Lars was walking with his sister on one of the lesser used roads of Koha, and at 8 p.m. there was no one else out there but them. Suddenly Lars was pinned against the ground with Sora on top. I love you, you know that right? Her face was now just an inch away from his I love you too. He was cut off by her putting a kunai up against his lips. No, I mean I love you. She took the kunai away. Lars smiled. And I mean I love you. After that day Sora just seemed much happier, and Sora's confession back to current time. L's age 10 now. Lars just couldn't help be think about Mido and Asami. He knew they had feelings for him, but they never said it and have anything. I guess Lars thought sadly he really loved everyone in his family. Not really Minato, because he found his job much more important than spending time with his family. Naruto at least found time to spend at home even with his friends and his girlfriend. But not everything was good, as things with Kumo had started to heat up. But the kidnapping and death of Hinata, it seemed that by the end of this week there would be 4 great nations in the war. Lars was thinking on the way home to the Hidden Leaf. Man, now I'm going to have to kill Killer B. That sucks. A few days later in L's bedroom, Lars sat on his bed as he asked Kha if he could get something very special. K had to admit that what Lars was saying was a little confusing and made her uncomfortable. So you want me to give you some of the Sao's chakra so you can heal faster? That didn't really make much sense, seeing as the Sao's chakra was dangerous to anyone but her. Yes and no, the technique will replace most of my insides and I don't want to be all ragdoll looking, so I'll need to be able to heal really fast so I can make it perfect. Lars sighed. Trying to get his mother to agree to giving him one of the most dangerous substances in the world. After you show me that it works on something living, then maybe, Kha said in a matter-of-fact tone. Lars jumped up and down with joy. He knew that it would work, and when she said maybe, she meant I've already thought about it. And okay, thank you mom. Lars then kissed her. K was surprised by this but returned it anyway. Just as the two pulled away, Mato opened the front door. Lars and Kha walked downstairs. Lotto didn't look too happy. He took a seat at the kitchen table. Paid to add. What's up? Lotto let out a sigh. Nothing good, little buddy, nothing good. Pina put 2 and 2 together. So we're at war with Kumo? She asked to take the seat opposite Minato. All he could do was nod. Lonato had called a council meeting, and after reviewing the facts they were left with no choice. Kumo had kidnapped a ninja of Koha, and that ninja just happened to be a Hyuga. They only had one option. Kino had declared war against Kumo. A week later 5 people stood in Minato's office waiting for his orders. They were all of Jonah level, even if some were still of rank. Naruto, Makoto, Kuraigai and Lars. You 5 have been selected for an Ankh mission. You don't have the option to decline, so don't even ask. He waited for the information to settle in. You will be reporting to General Jera in the camp on the border of Lightning Country. You will depart tomorrow. You are dismissed. But that the 5 ninja left, and so war starts. Lars thought to himself as he left for home he would need more than a few things for a long-term mission. Before departure, Lars and Naruto had just returned home to find no one there, or so they thought. Naruto looked at the clock. 7:35 p.m. Naruto turned to his little brother. He really didn't know what to say. His brother was only 10 and they weren't very close, and now they were going to be killing people together. Lars looked at him with a glare. What are you looking at? He forgot that Lars didn't care much for him even if they hardly knew each other. It's not that Lars didn't like his brother, the opposite really. He loved his brother not like his sister and mother but his family. Naruto just reminded him of his last life, her royally, up his last life with his stupidity. But what really made him mad was that the Naruto here was not stupid. He was a commie damn genius, not as good as himself. Of course, after all, Lars had 20 or so more years of training and Naruto was a bit of an arrogant deeg. Nothing, I'm going out. Naruto turned and left out the front door, going to see that Ida girl L get drunk. That was also one thing he didn't like. Naruto was 17 and rank with other Jonin Itas or just by himself, and when he was drunk he was a total ass. But enough about Naruto. Lars had more important things to think about, like finding Kha. Lars K. Naruto K. Is it you? Kina called from upstairs. Dust me mom. Lars walked up the stairs and into Cass Hima's room. He didn't bother to knock. He checked the house for other chakras and found none, so he and Kina were all alone. Once Lars walked into her room he found her in just a towel. You know sweetie, we haven't took a shower together in almost 2 weeks and we won't see each other for a long time. Oh, how about one more time before you have to leave? And I know for a fact that everyone will be out of the house until tomorrow morning, Kina said with a seductive smile. Lars smiled and nodded. He followed her to the bathroom. Looks like it's makeout showing and naked cuddling later that day. After a 6-hour show, Lars and Kushina chose to call it a night. Lars K, she said, giving him one more kiss. Night mom. He fell asleep lying naked, tucked right up against an equally naked Kina. Next day Lars and Kha woke up an hour before Minato was to be home. It wouldn't be too good if Minato found out about his wife and son's little loving monuments, so Lars had spent the rest of the time getting ready to be deployed. He now stood in a weapons shop. Payars. He turned away from the display to find who would be calling him. He saw some girl he didn't know. Yeah, the girl was now just a few feet away from him. You don't remember me? She asked, pointing to her face. I now. Lars was feeling a little uneasy. Should he know who this was? She didn't seem familiar. Brown hair and 2 purple rectangles on her face, not really ringing any bells. L shook his head. But I can't really blame you for not remembering. You were just Whoa at the time. Well, I'm Rin, one of your father's students. He probably told you about me, you know, like whenever you do like father and son bonding stuff, right? Lars gave her the stone face look. Lady, I don't really talk to my father and he doesn't really pay much attention to me. So Lars turned back to weapons. Maybe if I ignore her. Shio, that gauntlet looks cool. I used to be a swordmaster, so why not choose a different weapon? What he doesn't. Ren just couldn't believe that the man she thought of as a father would ignore his son. Syy. Look, I know you must think my dad is some kind of living god, but I have news for you. The most time he spent with me was the time I painted the Hokage and he lectured me about how impotent his status is. So if you don't mind, I'm being deployed today until the war with Kumo is over, so I would like to spend that time not talking about my father. Lars picked up the tall glove and went to the checkout, and after paying for what he left, leaving a stunned Rin. What just happened at the Nam's house? Sora's bedroom, to be more precise. If you were to walk in, you would find a blonde boy being pinned to the bed by a girl with long spiky red hair. Lars was finding out Saint how skilled Sora was with her tongue. Tommy, how does she turn it like that? He actually felt her tongue wrap around his. After a few minutes she pulled away and damn pant, how did you even do that? Lars just had to know. Being friends pant with Orochimaru Mars apprentices has its perks. Sora then smiled. ND hugged him. She didn't really care that she was laying on top of someone a foot shorter than her. Not that Lars minded either, even though she weighed more than him. They just laid there looking at each other. She started running her fingers through his hair. They're so cute. She smiled, but then a worry look came to her face. Lars caught it right away. I'll be fine. No weak ass lightning ninja could kill me. Lars didn't know that she could move so fast because once he said that she had once again covered his mouth with hers. They kept at this for a little bit until it was time for Lars to leave. Right As he was about to leave, Sora stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Promise me you'll be back. She had a pleading expression. Lars looked up at her and smiled. It's a promise of a lifetime. At the north entrance, hello Lars K. Makoto greeted me with a motherly smile. Lars nodded and returned the smile. He couldn't help but notice her altered appearance. Of course he didn't expect her to be in the same clothing at home in air, but it was still strange to see her in ninja attire. She wore a black john and vest with the AA symbol, black ninja outfit, and some sort of mix of a ninja sandal and heels. GNISP. Okup. Looks the same as M and I'm. Now that everyone is here, I think it's time we departed. Looking at everyone, they all nodded and left for the southern Lightning Country. 2 weeks later, Tommy, why is Lightning Country so far away? Naruto asked for the 10th time. He seemed to be getting on L's nerve. Sows, it's past you and Shimo country and we just got to Shimo, Makoto said in a tired voice. Tired of Naruto's complaining, not the journey itself. And how far is Shimo from Lightning Country? Guy asked, wondering just how much longer he was going to have to run. Jump. Lars was surprised that Guy was not as workout crazy. Cues, I'm going to get there in 3 days no matter what. Haha, if not then I'll go the entire way back on my hands, and if I can't do that, Guy continued with a smile. Never mind about him not being workout crazy. Sorry Guy, but it's another week. The sigh was heard from Naruto, Lars and Kura. 1 week later, the team just arrived at the Koha Ninja base in Lightning Country when an Ambu jumped down in front of them. Osama asked to see you as soon as you arrived. Please follow me. They nodded and walked behind the masked ninja's tent. The BU stopped outside the tent entrance of Sama. They were here and then disappeared. The muffled enter was heard, so the 5 of them went in. Jera looked up. Good, you're all here now, you 4. He pointed to everyone but Lars. Will be some of my generals, he said, leaving the 4 shocked. Now Makoto, he pointed to her, you will be in charge of the ambush and communication squads. Wolf. Just then an Ambu with a wolf mask entered the tent. Makoto to her squad. The Ambu nodded and the 2 of them left. Gur and IUU will be leading the Jinjutsu and information gathering squads. Cats like Makoto left. IU will be in charge of the infantry. Tiger. The same thing happened as the other 2. Naruto, you will be leading the light assault teams. Rabbit again and you entered and Naruto left with her. Now for you Lars, before we continue I would like to talk to you, Jera asked as he got his first look at Lars in over 3 years. He wore a dark red long-sleeved sheer tee under his ton and vest and black pants with black clothes, tooted shoes, and his kano had headband around his neck and a gauntlet that went up to his elbow on his right arm. Gua had to hold a small giggle in his hair. It was tied up and looked like a yellow crescent moon, but he quickly got serious. I was wondering how you feel about this. He gave Lars a worried look. He was his godson and he knew just how terrible war could be. I don't understand the question. Are you asking how I feel about killing or the war in general? About killing. How do you feel about killing? Jera clarified. It's necessary for T. He wore and to protect that. He was cover off by Jera. No, not what you've been trained to say. Jera crossed his arms. He wants some sort of little kid answer. Huh, well fine, I'm scared, Lara said with his head down. He even started to cry. And Kami, I'm a good actor. Uriah had a concerned look and went over to the 10-year-old and hugged him. I know you shouldn't be here. You may be a tunin and I know you've killed more than your share of people, but no kid should have to go through this, and remember that no matter what I'll be here for you if you need to talk, he said, smiling at his godson. Lars wiped his tears away and thanked the old snon. After Jera had finished the family moment, he went into ninja mode. You of course won't be a general, but your role is important. You will be a member of the heavy assault unit. I've seen the jutsus you've made and I have faith that you will be able to handle it. Any question? On's just one. Who am I working under? Lars hoped that he didn't have to work with a Hyuga. They all seemed to be almost it like they fought like it was a holy war or something. Like Keita was the most important person on the planet and that Kumo Ninja was the person that killed her. Thea smiled. You'll be under the command of your old team sensei Chosa Akamaiki. He's in the messel. You're dismissed. Lars smiled at the news as he left the tent. Aha, yes, Chosa, that guy is awesome. He hadn't seen his old teacher since a few months after becoming a chunin. The man would let Lars try out his new skills on him in training and even offer ways to improve it if Lars was honest with himself. Chosa was like a father to him. He didn't care much for his sensei's son. He has way too low confidence, much lower than the Choi in his dimension, but the thing that Lars really liked about him was that he never asked and he Never told anyone about some of the things he made, like the time I asked him to help with the EGF he did, and he didn't even tell Minato. Now thanks to Chosa, Lars was sure he could make it with even more hearts. Now all he needed were a few hearts and some animals to test it out. By the time he got out of his musings, he was already at the mess HLE. He entered it and saw his old sense right away. He was eating with Annoy and Shikaku. Hey sensei, Lars called out to one of the few people he really respected. Toza looked up and smiled. Lars, about the time you got here. He motioned for Lars to take the seat ACR. Os from him. Lars did, and now sat across one of the most powerful people in this camp. How have you been scorting? The tall redid asked as he shelved food into his mouth. The next few hours were spent with the two of them catching up. By the end of the day, LS and Chosa were laughing and telling jokes on. A month later, Lars had yet to be sent on a mission and was getting fidgety. Even Naruto has already gotten to do something. Lars huffed to himself. On the bright side, he had time to train. He could see people's chakra, so he could tell if it was a good idea to train or not, and he had an unexpected side effect. His chakra kept growing every time he dispelled his clones. He didn't expect that to happen, but he welcomed it all the same. He once had around Joan and chakra, and by the way it was going, by the time he was 15 he would almost have Jinshui levels. He hadn't even tried to use the Sage mode. Unlike other techniques, it had to be mastered by that body, and he didn't want to turn to stone now. Most people would have some trouble getting over losing one of the most powerful skills, but Lars was used to it and his version of the EGF worked. Then he would have no problem dealing with a Sage 1 week lat. Lars got up and was out of his tent in a flash. That's a big chakra headed this way. He made his way to Jair's tent without knocking. He entered the tent. Urea, there is a very large chakra signature headed this way. On hearing this, all drowsiness left him and he was up. Lars informs the generals with a quick hi. Lars left to go tell Jair's 8 generals. 1 hour later, all of the Koha soldiers were at the western entrance of the camp. Sir, we have reports of several hundred Kumon in headed this way. What are your orders? Some unnamed Jonah asked. Thea rubbed his chin. We already have some traps set up, but that won't be enough to stop them all. Shikaku, you're the main strategist. What do you think? I would recommend a pincer. We get the enemy from around both sides and enclose the back. Then as they are unable to flee, the heavy assault comes up the middle. By their size it shouldn't be that hard to pull off. Shikaku G aside, it was going to be a bloodbath. He was pretty sure only one side would suffer casualties. Kumo had no chance of winning this fight. You heard him take positions: light assault on the left, infantry on the right, heavy assault in the middle. He got a large amount of highs and nods. Remember, Naruto guy, your job is to make sure that your men meet up in the back to black off any escaped. Chosa and Lars will be in the front of the heavy assault, seeing as they have the jutsus and chakra for just such a fight. I'll be going with Guy's group and we'll have Kerr and I covering us with Injutsu. They nodded. Doza looked at his former student. Good luck, Lars. Thanks, and say and good luck to you too. But that they took their positions, the ninja broke from the tree line and ran at the Koha ninja. Lars made a single shadow clone. Do they even have a strategy? Lars thought to himself as he went. Though hand seals, Bram, horse, snake, dragon, route, ox, tiger. By release, fire, dragon, flame, bullets. He took a deep breath, then exhaled a massive stream of fire into the army of Cloud Ninja. Just as he said this, his clone finished gathering chakra for its own Injutsu ram, wind, release, pressure, damage like the real one. He took a deep breath but exhaled an enormous ball of compressed wind into the fire, increasing its power greatly. Several other jutsus were used at the same time, killing a few hundred Kumo ninja. After a few minutes they were signaled to stop an Injutsu assault if there was a surprise attack later. They would need their ninja with some chakra left over, just as Shikaku had said. They had blocked any exits, and now the heavy assault would move upright though the middle and kill anything that got in their way. As the light and infantry killed their way inward, L's eyes widened at recognizing a few of the Ninja Team B only, without Killer B and a few other ninja teams he had gotten to know during the Fourth Great War. Sorry, but we're enemies now, so I don't have a choice, Lars thought as he used a chakra reinforced palm strike to break a sword that looked familiar. Then with a hand that he used to break he delivered a knuckle strike to the redded girl's throat. I'm so sorry, Carrie-chan. He continued to apologize to everyone he knew that he killed until there was no one left. At first he had just been playing the kid that didn't want to go to war, but now after having to kill people that had saved Ed his life he didn't have to act anymore. By the end of the day Kumo had a 100% loss of the ninja force they sent. Kano has suffered about 0.01% loss. A guy accidentally overdid it and died of chakra. It seemed that it was a few platoon of Janine Junin and New Jonin had no idea how big the force Koha had sent. Lars thought he felt a large chakra, but it was just them overusing their chakra. On the way over there were only 600 ninjas going up against over 2000 Koha. Once it was a good battle for Koha and there would be only a few people not celebrating. Later that night Gua had been going over some Adel plans for Kumo's counterattack when he heard a knock on the outside of his tent. He had set up a wooden board so he would know when people needed to talk to him come in. He looked over to the entrance to find Lars had walked in and was already standing right next to him. Then we talk. Lars was Lu King down shore. He went over to a bench in his large tent. Lars sat next to him. So what did you want to talk about? He had expected Lars to not take his first massacre very well. Lars spent the night asking questions and getting advice. He had forgotten how wise Jera was. By the end of the night he felt much better and found that he was exhausted. As soon as he laid down he fell asleep. 6 years have passed since Lars had killed Team B and Koha's peacemaking team had grown as well, now over 6,000 ninja, but not everything was good. They had gained and lost several cities and very small provinces, and many good ninja died as well. He had gotten over their deaths rather quickly. Once he just got a new outlook, thinking that they are not really the ones that had saved him. They may have looked like them and had the same chakra and techniques, but they were far from the same. The Team B here would most likely kill him if they had the chance, so he no longer had any problem killing people he once knew. We joined New Jan and Lars as he makes his way to the tent of one of his superiors. That's a major chakra headed this way. And why are there so many people out? He bumped into the sixth person after exiting his he finally made it to General Makoto's tent. Makoto said, I need to talk to you. Yes, Threadboy, Makoto asked playfully. She liked making fun of Lars' title, but fighting so many battles Lars had gained himself a title. Lars of the Thread is not a very intimidating title, but people who knew how he got title were rather terrified. He kept a backpack filled with long black thread and would control them to restrain people and remove vital organs. Since he didn't want to look all stitched up, he would have to wait before he could implant them into his body. She looked over to the now 16-year-old Lars. His appearance had changed greatly over the short span of time. He had on a large black backpack the size of a duffel bag. He also now wore a dark red coat that stopped at his knees, a black shirt with Uzumaki clan symbol on it. He even got a new gauntlet with an arm guard and iron shoulder plate, but the most noticeable thing was his lack of Koha symbols, like no headband or flak jacket, not to mention he now wore metal greaves and boots. Lars was starting to look less and less like a ninja. There is something I feel you need to know. There is something big on its way over here. Large numbers and one moss Sieve chakra. Makoto's eyes widened. I have already informed Jera and he's calling a meeting of all the generals. Lars then disappeared, not in a swirl of leaves or fire or smoke, just disappeared. Bu's tent. Everyone was important at the meeting. Lead Jonin generals, even the head medic. All right, everyone Rs has sensed a gigantic chakra coming from Kamaka, so he will explain what's happening. Everyone turned to Lars. He moved over to the map of Lightning Country and pointed to the northern part of the base. Early this morning I sensed a huge chakra signature coming from the north. I know it's Demon Chaco. He was interrupted by one of the generals. And just how do you know what Demon Chakra feels like? He had a smug look in because on my trainer just so happens to be the container of the Kawi and she trained me to see Demon Chakra, so I think I know the difference. He sent a glare. Now as I was saying, the chakra is most likely the two talls, seeing as it's nowhere as powerful as the Kai's. The best plan would be to separate it from the group it's coming with and deal with it that way, so we'll have to have. Once again he was interrupted by the same. And why are you the one coming up with a plan? Wouldn't Shikaku-sen be making the plan? Shikaku sighed. I have no experience dealing with Jin Shariki L's dose, so the best option would be for someone who knows what we're up against to be making the plan. And would you stop interrupting? It's troublesome. Lars continued. We'll have to fight it one-on-one if We want to take it down without killing the host. Theodo found that strange. Why not kill the host? It would make things much easier now. It was Lars who said the host of the Two Tails is the daughter of the Rakage. If we kill her we lose a bargaining piece. Just think what the Rakage would give up for H. As only daughter. If things go well we could end the war with Kumo and start fighting in places that we should be at, like I were. Tsunade saw his point. No one looked like they were going to ask how he knew that the Rakage daughter was the container, which was a good thing seeing as Lars didn't really have an explanation for knowing. But who was going to be fighting it? Guy asked. Whoever Dos will be in for a major fight. Gua was the one to answer that would be me. I'm the only one here with the skill needed for this kind of fight. It wasn't a plan for Jera to fight the two Talls, but they didn't need to know. Naruto looked a bit confused. Okay, but what about the rest of the Kumo forces? Chaku explained the plan earlier before Lars woke up the other. Vera sensei, the only reasonable choice would be for me to fight her. I know how to counter demon chakra attacks and what seals to use on a Jinshu. Lars did make a point. Jera himself never fought Kha, but she taught Lars how to do it without killing them. The others would never allow it. Then don't tell them. I could just as easily call her out before the fighting starts. I lead the Two Tails away and you make sure no one interrupts again. Lars Ma. De yet another point. Even if it did seem dangerous, G knew that Lars was far above Jonah level, and with his weird threats Jera wasn't sure he would win in a fight against him. After all, Lars was one of those once in a generation geniuses. All right, but if you die I'll find a way to bring you back and you myself. That is if Kha doesn't undo it first. Jera only half joked. He was sure if anything happened to Lars Kha would most likely cut Jura's nut off, then use the Odins to bring back Lars, then beat the __ out of him for getting himself killed. Thanks sensei. At the edge of a cliff they nowhere near the village, but that meant that the surroundings were a bit easier to get around. The only downside was that the village was surrounded by mountains and cliffs, so fighting was difficult, but they would worry about that when they got there, or were at least a bit closer. On the top of Am. Ountane, one of Makoto's scouts, was looking through her telescope. There she finally found what she was looking for, a huge group of Kumo ninja headed this way. She then shot off a firework to signal the rest of the Koha ninja. Seeing as it was sunset they would be able to see it down with Jura and others. The scout was running to General Makoto's tent. Makoto-sama, Scouting Team 4 has just confirmed that there is a large number of Kumo ninja on their way here. Good, informed the others with a hi. The ninja left to tell everyone else. Let's see just how powerful the daughter of the Rai Cage is, she said to herself as she looked in the direction of the Kumo ninja force, the Fura and Lars, and then they made me their king and an orgy was held in my honor. Jera finished his story. Lars sat there staring at him. Wow, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You expect me to believe that you met a bunch of people the size of mice and saved their entire island and they made you their king, then they had a miniature orgy in your honor? Lars looked at him like he was the stupidest thing on the planet. I don't care if you don't be Dia-sama, there are ninjas on their way here, the scout said with panic evident in his voice. Lars looked over to Jera. To be continued. They then got up and headed for the battle zone at the mountain. There was a standoff between Kumo and Kohan ninja. Gua looked over to the mass of cloud ninjas. Hey Lars, you wouldn't happen to know which one is the Two Tails container? Jera asked without taking his eyes of the ninja army. Yeah, the blonde teenage girl in purple. I lead her away. You make sure no one follows. He got an odd and Lars jumped off to the right. Makoto's eyes widened at finally putting together what they were talking about. He cleared his throat and yelled, come on out and play Kitty-chan. Lars kun won't hurt you much. With that Lars jumped off. He didn't even have to look to see if the girl was following him. Well, that was easy with Yugito. Did he just say he was Lars? Her commanding officer asked. Yes, so what? He ran away. Saito. Lars is the name of the Yandho K's son. One of the missions we were supposed to do is kill him. Go after him, he yelled at the little girl. Io's eyes widened upon hearing this. She heard how he killed 20 jonin by controlling a thread. Hi. She then jumped off after him. Oh no, I'm going to have to fight him, she thought nervously. Back with Jera. Lodo looked at Jera. He's fighting her by himself. Jera nodded. They'll be fine, so try to focus more on the enemy. Lodo turned back to the Kumo forces and whispered, you better hope he's fine. Back with Lars. He had been jumping for a few minutes now and he felt UETA right behind him. He looked too Find that she was pretty far behind. You're pretty slow for a demon, he called back. He used to be a Jingari, so he knew what buttons to press that seemed to get to her as she seemed to speed up. Purple chakra is already starting to come off of her. Almost there. Lars had set up a few traps at a clearing a few minutes away. Once he got her there, she was done for the clearing. Lars landed and jumped away from a fireball that ended up where he was before he jumped. Man, demons do have bad tempers, Lara said with a smile. Just then Yugito landed. Who are you calling a demon, Moon Boy? Yugito said, trying to sound intimidating. Moon Boy, really? That's the best insult a demon can make. Ragdoll Yarn Boy, but you go with Moon Boy, he said, putting his hands behind his head. You'll pay for that demon comment, she yelled, pointing at him. Lars looked shocked. Demons take payment now, holler, and something new every day. Lars P. Oot a finger on his chin to look like he was thinking. A stream of blue fire shot out of her mouth at him. The demon, he said from behind her. He then kicked the crouching girl in the side before she could turn around, sending her flying into a tree until she cut right through the tree and land dead on her feet. That is, in a cloak of chakra surrounded her in the shape of a cat. Lars crossed his arms. Just like Mom and me. So you really are a cat demon? He heard her sniff. His eyes widened as he recognized the scent. Wait, are you crying? He couldn't believe it. She was crying, and in front of an enemy. Why, ninja, shut up. You Kanawan ninja are just like everyone else. You think just because we have demons in us that we are them. Her lip trembled as she said this. Lars didn't get a good look at her first, but now he saw that overestimated her age. How old are you? She was so small he didn't notice when he ked her cause she was crouched. But now what does it matter? You're going to die, so there's no point in telling you. She then charged at him. Lars sighed and held his hand in the snake right before Yugito would have hit him. Threads made out of chakra came out of the ground and held her in her chakra ba. Then the threads pulled her to the ground where a seal was now viable. She couldn't move and she couldn't use chakra. He saw panic in her eyes and then, no, please don't. She was tearing up before now. She was crying. Calm down, I'm not going to do anything, but now that you're not going to be killing any one, how about you tell me your age? I'm 9J, just please don't hurt me. She was crying now. Lara stopped moving as things started to come together. What the _ 9 and why the _ is she so terrified about me? Oh no, it made a scene now. She was so thin and small and terrified by being unable to move. Lars was willing to bet his life that she wasn't trying to trick him. Beside and held his hand in the half snake again, and the threads disappeared and she curled up into a ball and cried some more. He sat next to her. How often? He didn't need to specify. Why do you care? She said, still not facing him. I'm just a demon anywhere, right? She then turned to glare at him. I was just saying that to get you to fall into my trap. That's not how I see Jingui at all. Like I believe that, she said, curling back into a ball. She didn't care that he was an enemy ninja. Hell, she could tell that he could kill her anyway. Facing him or not, my mother is the Kawi container and I love her. He looked over to her. She slowly uncurled and sat up. She looked at him. She could tell when people were lying and he wasn't. He then hugged her and she cried into his coat. A few hours later, Gua and some father ninja jumped down to where Lars was supposed to be. They found him holding a little girl and looked like he was sleeping. Sitting up about the time you got here, sensei, Lars said, looking up. Back at camp, Lars was still holding the girl. So how did it go? Lars asked, sitting on his bed not looking at Makoto. She'll probably chew my ass off for that. It went fine, not counting all the people we lost because one of our top heavy assault ninjas wasn't there. But let's cut the crap. What are you doing holding the two talls container? Jay was supposed to capture her, not you. And why is she not in a cage or something and her chakra isn't even sealed? Makoto asked angrily. But I did capture her. Then I found out that the rage was letting her get raped on almost daily basis and that he doesn't give a rat's ass about her. Oh, and the little fact that she is 9 and can barely control the demon cat and looks like she hasn't eaten in days. R said in a matter-of-fact tone. Makoto and the other Jonah were shocked. Oh, the poor thing, Makoto said quickly, going into mother mode. So I offered her a safe haven in Koha and she agreed, Lars said, then leaned back onto his bed with Yugito on his chest still asleep. So if you don't mind, we'll continue this conversation in the morning. He then repositioned himself with Yugito still on him and covered himself and her up. Everyone left the tent. They would let the girl asleep, then talk with her.